Our next speaker is Professor Emeritus of Industrial Sociology at Illinois State University. He's a member of Illinois People's Action and many other environmental groups, and one of the best anti-fracking experts in the state of Illinois that I know of. Please give it up for Bill Robb.
Okay, again, thank you. I'd like to go through the 3 issues, and if I have time, a 4th as well. There's some thou shalt nots for gas companies. Don't frack in a seismically active zone. Don't frack in the danger zone, which I'll explain. Don't frack near an abandoned oil well. We got lots of those. This is the Wabash Valley Seismic Zone. When you ask about earthquakes in the Midwest, people think New Madrid. Actually, this is a seismically active area now. There have been 3 magnitude 5 earthquakes in this area over the last 20 years. The seismologists at Washington University feel the next big one is coming out of Illinois. Where's the sweet spot for shale gas in Illinois? It's in the Wabash Valley Seismic Zone. That's where the industry will probably go first. This is just a brief explanation of what happened during the big one in New Madrid back in 1811. Needless to say, it changes the topography of the earth. If we have a bunch of shale oil fields that are under production and we get a big one, who knows? Southern Illinois could look a little bit like Kuwait after Saddam Hussein left. Remember when he lit all those oil wells on fire? You could probably kiss a lot of your groundwater goodbye. You don't want to frack in this area. The second issue concerns the distance between ground surface and where fracking begins. International experts at International Energy Association, a German panel of experts funded by ExxonMobil, have declared you don't want to frack between the ground and 1,000 meters down. That's the danger zone. It just so happens that the shallowest shale field in the United States is the New Albany shale field, with the exception of the one area in the southeast corner of the state that's in the Wabash Valley Seismically Active Zone. So if there's going to be fracking in New Albany shale, most of it will be within this danger zone. Doesn't make much sense, does it? Now, if you see a schematic by the industry of a shale field, what you'll be looking at is the Marcellus shale field or the Barnett shale field, and they'll be taking it down to 8,000 feet, and they'll be saying, see, it's safe. We're down at 8,000 feet. Well, guess what? They're not going to be fracking New York and Illinois. So most of our shale is going to be in an area where we run a very high risk of polluting our groundwater supplies. Notice this is the New Albany here, and it runs from around, you've got 600 feet to sea level here. This is down around 1,500 feet and runs up almost to the surface. Here is a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. These were wells where the fracking was within 1,000 meters, 3,200 feet. They were down 1,100 meters when this fracking was going on. When you get in this gray zone and above, you have combustible levels of methane in private drinking water supplies. That's when you can light the stuff on fire. It can also blow up a house. It can asphyxiate people at night. What you're doing under these circumstances is you're forcing people to move out of their home or return to the 19th century when they don't have running water. Those are the 2 choices you have. And this is going to be the fate of many people living in Illinois when these companies move into town. Now, you folks know about this. This is mostly for upstate Illinois, where people are not familiar with the fact that Illinois was number 3 in oil production in 1910. And as a consequence of this, if we look at the next slide, we have 150,000, roughly 150,000 wells, historical wells that are inactive. If Illinois is like Pennsylvania and Texas, thousands of wells will be lost in the mists of time. The DNR will not even know where they're located. Now, they can find them with aerial reconnaissance, but they can't even keep up with the wells that they know. Here are abandoned wells, orphaned wells. They're unplugged. Some of them are leaking oil. They've taken out water wells of people nearby. They had 4,000 in 1997. This list, 125 pages, gives us 4,500 wells today that are unplugged. They say they're plugging 500 a year. We can find 80 plugged wells on this list. Now the problem with this is if you can turn to the next slide, Barb, each of these wells is a fast-track conduit for methane and frack byproducts to move from where an area is fracked up into groundwater and even into the atmosphere. Because you can get a kick up to a kilometer away, 3,200 feet away. If they're fracking, they can kick into that open well and stuff's going to come shooting up to the surface. I think someone should look at this issue seriously before they let people in to start ransacking Illinois. Next slide, please. Now, what's this all about? What is this game really all about? I can tell you what it's all about. It's about these pending applications before the U.S. Department of Energy. I'm sorry that you can't see this, but that's the U.S. Department of Energy, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. If you add up these and these, you get 21 trillion cubic feet of natural gas that could be exported from the United States. Last year, we consumed 26 trillion cubic feet. These liquefied natural gas export facilities could export 80% of the gas we consume today. This is the game that's going on, because if you look at the price in the United States for gas today, it's $3 a million BTUs, maybe a little bit more, 320, 330, it's around there, it's 3 something. Guess what it is in Japan and Korea? $18. $18. So if you turn to the next slide, Barb, this is what's going to be happening with gas in Illinois. It's going to be coming down pipelines all the way down to the Gulf Coast, and from there it's going to be exported overseas. And southern Illinois will be turned into an export colony for the rest of the world. That's why there's so much big money behind this. It's not these little companies drilling the holes in the ground. Most of them are almost bankrupt to begin with. The big boys are in the pipelines and the export business. And this is the big money in Illinois buying off our politicians. So that's basically it. I could go on for another hour and a half, but we have some other speakers here. So thank you very much for your time.